Hello, welcome to another episode of Creative-ish. We are your host. I'm Ariana.
And I'm Kelly.
If you're a new listener, Creative-ish is a podcast where we discuss all the ups and downs of being a creative in your 20s. So we talk about perfectionism, mindset, productivity, and all of the in-between to try to understand how we can better show up as creatives in our life and business. Today, we're giving an update on our entrepreneurial journey. If you're not very familiar with us, me and Kelly run a creative studio called Ari Studio, where we design brands and websites. And we've been running this studio for almost 3 years now. It's going to be 3 years in June. And the entire time it's just been me and Kel. And so we were talking about what's next for us, what's next for the business. We were thinking of the possibility of hiring a team, bringing some extra people to help us just broaden our capacity for the studio. So we were talking all about that recently, and I think a magical thing happened and we wanted to share it with you guys.
Yeah. So we were actually having this conversation on the car on our way to a coffee shop, of course. And yeah, we were just discussing it. Should we get an intern? Should we hire somebody part-time, full-time? We really didn't know, or maybe even a contract position. And we were just confused and we didn't know what to choose. And we kind of just left the conversation open, didn't really make a decision. And then when we got to the coffee shop, it was a sign from the universe. The universe made the decision for us because we suddenly got an email from a girl that was interested in doing an internship with us. And the email was basically that she admired our company, that she thought she could learn a lot from it. And yeah, and she was a very good candidate. And we were like, wow, how amazing that this happened. But along with that, with all the excitement of hiring this potential person or having her as an intern, some fear came along and some imposter syndrome and some feelings of, am I good enough for this? Or, wow, this is really scary, like taking on the responsibility of managing somebody else. It was a little scary in that way.
So that's what we're talking about today, the feeling of being scared of responsibility, how the reflections that me and Kelly have had since this happened, also reflecting on why it even took us this long to be open to hiring help when we probably could have done it a long time ago. So that's what today's episode is all about, kind of like our reflections on responsibility and the side effects of taking responsibility.
Yeah, and as I was saying, taking on responsibility can feel scary. And I think that feeling of feeling scared comes from you feeling like you're gonna fail in some way, in some aspect. I think it's also scary stepping out of your comfort zone. Like, obviously, managing somebody else is not something that's within our comfort zone. It's not something that we've done a lot in the past. So those feelings come up a lot. But when you do take on that responsibility, even if you're scared, you are going to step into a new standard. You're going to step out of your comfort zone, and that your zone of comfort is going to shift. What you find comfortable is going to shift. It's going to change. It's going to evolve. You're going to step into a new identity. And essentially, that's why you need to take on new responsibilities, even if it's scary, even if you have that anxious feeling. Especially if you have that anxious feeling, because that was one of the things we felt, because after the interview, this girl was great and she's a great candidate, but it's an anxious feeling of, okay, how much responsibility can I also give her? Because I am responsible for everything that she does, basically, because it is our business. And it's scary. Again, I'm sorry if I'm being very redundant, but it is. But what's at the other side of that is much greater, because now this person is coming into the business and I'm sure they're going to help us a lot and it's going to have a positive ROI. But yeah, as I said, it is anxious because you're used to doing things a certain way. Like, I have my own style. Addie has her own style. we've been working at this. We've known each other for 6 years, so we get each other. So adding another person to the mix and seeing how they do things, it's gonna be a process and it's gonna be a learning experience, and it's gonna take time.
Yeah, and I think that this decision is really going to play on an identity that I've been very scared about for the longest time, and it's the identity of being a leader. I have always been very insecure about that. Since I started the business, I have always been scared of that, of leading people, having a team, being considered a boss. It just feels so not inside my identities and so weird and so intimidating. And so, yeah, that's also been coming up. And I think that I wish that I would have gotten over this fear a long time ago, because I think that it stems from my low confidence in myself. So I consider myself to be an introvert. I've always had this identity attached to me by other people that I'm shy. That also makes me feel like, oh, well, I'm not a people person. So like, how would I run a team exactly? So I have like all of these insecurities that I wish I would have actively disrupted earlier on in the business and worked on my confidence earlier on, because having that low confidence in myself held me back so much. Like, it's crazy that it took us 3 years to make this decision when we really could have opened up this opportunity a long time ago. And who knows where we would have been if I wasn't so afraid.
Yeah, it kind of baffles my mind how long it has taken us to start taking steps towards hiring people. Because we are conscious that the best things that have come in the business and in our life really have been when we've been able and willing to take on more responsibility, even if it felt scary, even if it felt heavy, even if we, didn't want to, in a sense. But that's what has made us grow. And I can recall so many times in the business that we've taken those jumps of taking on full responsibility. And one of the moments that I recall was when we had the opportunity to create an online event. We really did not have any experience, even making websites, much less events. And this person believed in us, and I am forever grateful. But yeah, we wanted to take on that responsibility, and it felt super scary. Like I was saying before, it was a great opportunity and we were ecstatic and super happy that we got to do it. But at the same time, we were very, very scared and anxious about it. But we took full responsibility and we started to learn how we can make this a great event, a great online event. And when the sales started rolling in, we were even more scared because it was like, wow, these are a lot of people that are coming to this online event. So we had to take full responsibility for the technology, making sure that the website worked properly, that everything was running smoothly. And it was amazing at the end of the day, because even though we encountered some hiccups, the high that we got from doing that event and having that much responsibility and that much autonomy and agency, that amount of responsibility was just so satisfying.
It was an opportunity to learn. And if we hadn't done that, then we wouldn't have figured out how to do online events and make websites. And I think that the best way that you learn is by doing. You have to take action before you're ready. And I think that this is how we've encountered everything. There will always be a first time for everything. Mm-hmm. So even if you're scared, just trust in yourself that you can do this. You can do hard things. You can make this happen.
And not only that, but when we took on that responsibility, our comfort zone changed. And we've done a bunch of events now. And we did an online event just last week, and it felt so easy, and it felt like riding a bike, and it didn't feel hard at all. So that's amazing when you take on more responsibility and you develop these new skills and all that stuff. Even though it's scary, there's so much more on the other side of that that is going to be much more rewarding. Like the rewards are much better than the fear and the anxiousness that you might feel in the beginning.
Exactly. It's like the level of responsibility that you're willing to take. It's the same level of rewards that you're going to reap. So,
yeah, there was no way I could have gotten a high like that. Like the high I got from doing that first online event was a great high, like a natural high. And that only comes when you take on responsibility and you're proud of yourself. These are moments where you do feel proud of yourself for taking on stuff like that.
Exactly. It's a delicious feeling to accomplish something that you thought that you weren't ready for.
Mm-hmm.
And then you showed yourself that you can actually do these things. I think that it's something to think about. If you're not happy with where you currently are, with your circumstances, with your level of work, with the type of work that you're doing with your clients, you have the power to get out of that situation and either take on more responsibility to change your circumstances or stay the same. Because there will always be that one thing, that one action, that one step out of your comfort zone that will completely change the narrative for you and change the narrative of your business, your identity, and what you think you're capable of doing.
Now in your life.
Yeah. I think that this is something that has been very relevant for us. We've always done things without being 100% ready. I think of our first business when we started selling soaps. When we first started that business, we didn't even know how to make soap. And we just started the Instagram account without even knowing how to make soap. And then we figured it out. And the same with when we were years into that business, when we wanted to make an online course, we didn't wait around. We started promoting the course. We started selling it even before it was made. And then we figured it out. We had 2 weeks of all-nighters and making the course. And it was great. It was so rewarding afterwards. So
yeah, having the responsibility of delivering a good quality course to like 60 people that had prepaid for a soap course, even if it doesn't sound like it, it was pretty nerve-wracking and pretty scary in the moment. Like, are we gonna finish this? I'm not sure. And we already promised it.
Yeah, because we put a deadline, and I think that is key. Like, compromising yourself with other people will be a huge driving force.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it was just like the threshold for being able to push and keep pushing so that we actually got the thing done was amazing.
Yeah, like if we would have not promoted it and not put a deadline, we would have been waiting forever, procrastinating. And yeah, at that point, we just had to be okay with what we had shot, what we had done. And we put it out there and it was great. It was fine. So
having a deadline is very important. I think with the intern as well, if she wouldn't have sent us an email, I'm not sure we would have moved.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure we would have procrastinated like 4 months more, probably.
100%. And I think that we all have a little voice inside of us that has very low standards for what we can do. So it's the voice that tries to keep you small. So for example, it's the voice that comes up when you try to challenge yourself, when you try and do something new or something that feels a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And every time that you can successfully go against that voice, it raises your self-confidence and your self-belief. So every time that you hear that voice, but you still go on and make that higher, or you hear the voice and you still go and raise your prices and you actually get paid those prices, or every time that you hear the voice, but you still go on and you show up on social media, even if you're scared, or even if you think that you're going to get judged, it increases your ability to believe in yourself and feel confident. And every time that you do it, the voice gets smaller and smaller and quieter because you have all of this evidence that you can actually do hard things, that you can actually make things happen for yourself. So that's why we have to constantly increase our levels of responsibility a little bit day by day, month by month, week by week, whatever it is, going just a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And something that I've been actively doing to try and prove myself wrong is that I've been doing the TikTok challenge. We mentioned it on last week's episode, but I can go into further detail here and what it's actually been like for me. So I decided to do a 100-day TikTok challenge because I just want to feel more consistent online. I also want to work on my talking skills and short form content. And I'm also craving like an online community that is just for me. So it's a personal account. I started a personal account and that's what I've been doing. And, you know, I've always had these identities about myself that I'm not a consistent person, or that I'm not the best speaker, or I'm not the most entertaining person. And consistently doing this for 13 days now, I am starting to see how those were just such silly excuses that little voice was making for me.
I feel like you doing the TikTok challenge wasn't only beneficial for you and for refining the skills and for your personal account, but it's also been beneficial for the business, because I can see it how you feel responsible. Like you've taken also the responsibility of also producing content for the business account. And that's just been amazing to see. And you've just stepped into a new identity, and now you feel like a content creator, quote unquote.
Yeah, I think that now it's like, oh, it's something that I do every day. I make a TikTok, and it feels easier each day that goes on. I think I have become desensitized to it. I don't feel as cringe listening to myself anymore. And it's been great. I just feel more confident in myself and more, I think I believe in myself more now.
Yeah, and I feel like it's because you've made it a top priority, and you've made it one of the most important responsibilities that you have during the day is to produce that TikTok or that piece of content. And yeah, like I said, it's translated into the business account as well. And now I feel like you feel very responsible for creating daily.
Yeah, I think it's taught me a lot about discipline and what discipline actually is. I don't think that discipline is just about blindly forcing yourself to do things. It's more about being aware and understanding why you're doing what you're doing. So I think that if you struggle with discipline or showing up daily for something, it probably has something to do with how much you actually wanted, or not being clear enough with what you want. So I think the reason that I am able to have so much drive for this challenge is because I'm very excited about what's on the other side of the challenge. Like I talked about, I'm working on my consistency, I'm working on my speaking skills, I'm working on building up a community online. So that drives me a lot, and I'm very aware of it, and it's very visual for me. So another reason that you might not be following up with the things that you want to do, even for the things that matter to you, even if you're very clear on what your end goal is, but you still struggle to show up. I think that it also has to do with you having a bad system of reminding yourself why you're doing what you're doing. So for me, the smartest thing that I did with the TikTok challenge was that we bought a whiteboard, and I put 100 little circles to represent the 100 days. And each day I go and mark off the circle, which is the most satisfying feeling ever. So I see it daily, each morning and each night I see it. I'm constantly being reminded of the challenge. So it's top priority. It's very visual for me. So I think that if you're struggling with being disciplined with something, maybe look at how you can maybe make it more visual, have more reminders throughout your day, putting it in your phone, like in your phone screen, putting reminders on post-it notes, whatever it is that you need to do to make it easier for you to be reminded of why you're doing it.
Yeah, and I think I've been very inspired by you with the TikTok challenge, and it's been great to feel inspired by you, because I feel like throughout our entrepreneurial journey, I've really put all of the responsibility of showing up online on you. And it's because I wasn't, well, not I wasn't, but I felt very scared to show up online and to show up in the business account. And I don't even have a real personal account. But yeah, so I just kind of like dumped all that responsibility on you. And now seeing you and seeing how you've stepped out of your shell, I'm like, okay, well, I should step it up as well and take on the responsibility of showing up online on the business account, on creating my own online real estate as a designer typey person. So yeah, now that is something I will do as well. I will take the responsibility of showing up online.
I think that it's really fun. And I think that my personal account has become a great outlet of personal expression. So it's easier for me to be more consistent on there because I can be my full self and it's not just limited to like the business niche. So I think that that's also very fun to be able to, you know, think of creative ideas for videos that have to do with other things. I'm trying to motivate Kelly to also do 100 days of TikTok. She wants to commit to 50, but I think she should go all in with the big one.
All in. I even told her that we should do like a competition. See who can keep the streak longer than 100 days. But I don't know.
Something that I'm also learning from the 100-day challenge is that the key is that you have to fall deeply, deeply in love with the version of you that is on the other side of the challenge. So for example, for me, that's the version of me that completed 100 days of being consistent, showing up online. That is the version of me that put her face out there with her thoughts and her opinions. That is the version of me that isn't afraid of taking up space online, and also a version of me that just feels more abundant and has an aligned community and is attracting the right people into her life. And yeah, so many other layers of this vision that I have for the person that is on the other side. And I fantasize about her every day. I am obsessed with her. I love that version of myself. So that keeps the drive going, that, you know, every time that I show up for the challenge, I am 1% closer to becoming this version. And it's a really cool process of you slowly merging into this future version of you and slowly starting to pick up her traits and her way of talking and her way of being and her habits and all of that. So I think that if you are trying to do something that feels a little bit challenging, try to think of what is the best possible person and identity that I can have on the other side of this, become obsessed with that person and becoming that person, and that will be a huge driving factor.
Yeah, if you keep putting off that type of responsibility because you're scared, you're never going to meet that person at the other side of it. You're never going to meet the person that you could have been if you just committed to having a little bit more responsibility that maybe you were a little bit scared of or anxious with. So that's what we want to leave you guys with. Just try to take responsibility wherever you can. Try to not be so afraid of it because there's a lot of rewards at the other side of that fear and that anxiousness. And as I said, what feels like a big responsibility now, later on might feel like nothing. It might feel super easy. So to close off the episode, we just wanted to share with you guys some questions that you can journal about after listening to the episode. So we're just going to say them now. So journal about why you don't want to take responsibility. Why do you feel like you can't take on a new responsibility right now? What is holding you back? What are the excuses that you're making to yourself? What are you telling yourself that, you know, like Ari said, what is that little voice saying? And how can you combat that and work through that?
And another journal prompt can be, if you were to take 100% responsibility in this thing that you are avoiding, what would be the best possible outcome on the other side of taking this action, on taking this responsibility?
And hopefully by journaling with these questions and actually thinking about your answers and being thoughtful about them, you'll feel more confident into taking that risk of taking responsibility, and you'll feel a lot more confident.
Yeah, so we hope that you guys leave this episode feeling just a little bit more inspired. If you like this type of content, then we also wanted to promote our weekly newsletter. It's called Dear Creatives. It's a newsletter very similar to this podcast, but in written format, where we share everything that we're going through. We share insights of what we're loving, what we're obsessed with. And yeah, it's delivered to your inbox every Wednesday. So if you like this podcast, I highly suggest that you also subscribe to the newsletter.
Yeah, we'll leave the link down in the show notes so you guys can subscribe. And hopefully we'll see you there. Thank you so much for listening. If you're feeling nice, you can leave us a little review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify or subscribe on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.